Alrighty, to do this video, I had to have stuff to show you. At the top is my Remington 1100. It's 12 gauge shotgun, 2 3/4 inch chamber. It's got a 26-inch barrel with screw-in chokes. I also have a 30-inch barrel for this gun with fixed full chokes. Underneath it is the Ruger 1022 semi-automatic rifle. This is probably the most popular and arguably one of the most well-designed .22 rifles ever. Below it, in the stainless steel, is the Ruger SP101. It's chambered in .22 long. If you've come to any of my concealed weapons classes, you have probably seen this gun and probably shot it. And next to it is my Smith & Wesson Model 15 and 38 Special. I want to talk about the different kinds of shooters. Now, I have seen some videos where people have talked about the same subject, and they've tried to put people into boxes. I'm going to tell you up front, most people are a combination of these things. First group is somebody that merely owns a gun. They may have at one time been law enforcement, military, maybe something they've inherited from a friend or relative, maybe something that once upon a time they bought strictly for home defense. I'm going to address the martial concept of firearms as well as the anti-gun points of view at the end of this video, because I think the martial aspects have been largely outdone, overdone, and I'm hoping people that watch this video that may have had previously anti-gun points of view understand a little bit better. Second group of people are collectors. These may be people that like the history of firearms. They generally gravitate toward antique pieces, depending on their age. That may be kind of subject to debate of what's an antique, because most of these will last a long time. They may enjoy some of the mechanical or aesthetic features of the firearms, the finish on the wood, the metal, the technology end. Those are both people in those two groups that probably don't shoot them on a regular basis. But that's not a hard and fast rule, because many collectors also enjoy multiple disciplines of shooting. You have the recreational shooter. And that may be anybody from a youngin' learning his fundamentals with a .22 rifle, .22 pistol. Maybe somebody that enjoys shooting historically interesting firearms, just for the recreational use of it. Maybe some guys that get together that enjoy shooting clay pigeons. Also, when we're talking about those, we have the competitors. Those are your numbers guys. They're kind of the accountants of the gun world. Oh, we need to shave 1/10 of a second here, or can I shave 100th there? These are the guys that probably get in the most trigger time of anybody else, because they are generally practicing on a regular basis. These also tend to be your guys that are kind of gadget guys. Nothing wrong with gadgets if you like them. Like I said, I'm not knocking anybody in this video, just kind of trying to explain things. And generally, like I said, most people are combinations. These competitive shooters are also probably the thoroughbreds of the shooting world. The next group, these are your hunters and your sportsmen. And they vary in attitude. To some of them, a firearm is just a tool. And no different to them than a shovel or an axe. Some people appreciate the firearms. And, well, they treat them a little better. You should also note that a hunter tends to use other sets of skills in conjunction with his shooting skills. Tracking, following the movements of animals and game, constructing stands, in some cases training dogs. The reason I go into a lot more detail with the hunter is because, well, I am one. Now, granted, I'm also a competitor. I'm also a guy that likes to get together with my buddies and shoot clays and shoot the .22 rifles, anything else. I also like to collect guns. Any one of these firearms can be used in a martial context. Protecting yourself, protecting others, protecting your home, protecting your community, protecting your country. What makes for the best firearm in a gunfight? That's the one you can get your hand on quickest. Simple as that. I have stated in concealed weapons classes that no, I do not feel the .22 long rifle that we generally shoot in those classes is the best choice for self-defense. But if that's the first one I can get my hand on, that's what my assailant's going to get shot with. So, even though I have specialized guns that may be more applicable for home defense, well, any one of them will work as long as I do my part. Another aspect that involves both the hunting aspect and the martial aspect may be protecting livestock from predators. It may be rattlesnakes, coyotes, wolves, depending on your location. Here in North Florida, it may be gators. The actual reptile, not the football team, because, well, the football team isn't much of a threat to anybody. But lastly, I want to address the anti-gunners. What makes an anti-gunner? Somebody that does not think that a human being should possess or own any type of a firearm. There is variety in them. On a rare occasion, you will have somebody that has an anti-gun point of view because of a unfortunate and or traumatic first-hand incident. The second cause may be they heard somebody's brother-in-law got shot and they don't like guns, or somebody, accidentally shot himself. Well, generally when that happens, that's due to negligence and carelessness. The most common cause for anti-gun people is plain old ignorance. A lot of them come across lately. They're saying, well, the semi-automatic shotgun or rifle doesn't have any place in the sporting world. I've used that Remington 1100 up there to hunt all means of birds, turkeys, squirrels, rabbits, deer, pigs. It's semi-automatic. The advantage with the semi-automatic is reduces the recoil. That allows you to stay on target. Because it loads it kicks an empty shell out and puts a fresh one in without me having to work a lever, a slide, or a bolt. I don't have to take the gun down from my shoulder if I'm following a moving bird or a deer to make a second shot. Now, I can do these things working a bolt action or a lever gun or a slide action, but that's because over decades I have trained myself to focus on my sights, work the action, and fire again. Second gun here is the Ruger Semi-Automatic 1022. This is probably the most popular .22 in the world. It fires out of a detachable magazine. This detachable magazine happens to hold 10 rounds. I like it because on this rifle it fits flush. It makes it easier for me to carry. I do have some extended magazines that hold 25 to 30 rounds. At one time, you could get a 100-round drum magazine. Made it look like a little Tommy gun. The problem with those magazines were they were not all that reliable. So we look at this and we have just defeated that argument about the semi-automatic firearm has no place in a sporting use. I also frequently compete with a semi-automatic pistol with full capacity magazines. I have also been known to compete with AR-15s and AK-47s. Just because you don't want one or you're scared of one because of some irrational fear doesn't mean that you have the right to tell me what I can and cannot use. Two revolvers here. If we're going to shoot the 22 rifle, hey, it's a good idea to have a 22 pistol to go with it. 22 ammunition's fairly cheap. It's also not really loud, and there's not a lot of recoil, so it's a good cartridge for recreational use and for training new shooters. Well, I hope I've kind of given you some points to think about, and think about maybe what combination you are in this world. And I hope I've taken this last little bit to dispel some ignorance from people. So, till later on.